Namo Bhagavate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So yesterday was the transcendental um, disappearance days, actually, of Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, and also Krishna Das Kaviraj. Three great souls. Two of them are six Goswamis. Raghunath Das Goswami is one of them, and as is Raghunath Bhatt Goswami. Krishna Das Goswami came after the six Goswamis. But also he's no less because he is the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So extraordinary person. So we'll try to see if we can get an idea of the life and times of these wonderful souls. So we'd like to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyamsundar, Krishna Balaram, Gauranitai, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees, and seek the blessings of these great personalities. So Raghunath Das Goswami first. He appeared in 1495 until 1586. For many, many years he stayed in this world. Born in a small village of Krishnapur in West Bengal. His father's name was Govardhan Majumdar, who was the younger brother of Hiranya Majumdar. They were landowners and tax collectors and had such fabulous wealth. It was comparable to that of Indra, the king of heaven. Srila Prabhupada describes the family of Raghunath Das. Compared to today's standards, they would have been multi-millionaires, practically billionaires. So interesting to note that the other Goswamis were born into Brahminical families, but Raghunath Das Goswami wasn't. Makes him no less of the six Goswamis, but it's just interesting to note that he was born in a family of landowners. Of the two brothers, Hiranya and Govardhan, there was only one son to whom everything belonged. That's Raghunath Das. His father and uncle were Vaishnavas. They were devotees of the Lord. They were disciples of the great Yadunandan Thakur. Yadunandan Thakur was initiated by Srila Advaita Charya, so no less, Advaita Charya, and was an intimate student of the great and most compassionate soul, Srila Vasudev Dutt. As a boy, Raghunath received Haridas Thakur's association and blessings. So much influenced by the example of Haridas, he had no attachment or affection for any of the materialistic things of the world. So Advaita Charya in Shantipur would often host Haridas Thakur, who became also his disciple. So Haridas became disciple of Advaita Charya. So I presume this is where Raghunath Das would have met Haridas Thakur, at the ashram of Advaita Charya. And whoever meets Haridas Thakur becomes very renounced. As we saw with the prostitute that was sent to him to lure him into material entanglement. But in fact, she herself became a great devotee. This was turning out to be a big problem for his parents because they wanted him to take over everything. So they married Raghunath Das to a beautiful, chaste young woman. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas in Katwa, afterwards he decided to go to Vrindavan. He was in ecstasy, dancing and chanting through the forest and the towns and villages in great expectation to reach Brajabhumi. Nityananda Prabhu, knowing how much pain the separation was within the hearts of the devotees that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had left behind in Navadvip and Shantipur, meditating on the condition of Sachidevi and others like Advaita and Srinivas, and Nityananda Prabhu tricked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by giving him different information by which he eventually came to Shantipur by way of the Ganga. There in Shantipur, Lord Chaitanya met his mother, who saw him for the first time with shaven head and robes of a sannyasi. That must have been really heartbreaking for the mother. Raghunath Das came to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the first time on that occasion Of the 6 Goswamis, Raghunath Das Goswami was the first to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally. He stayed there for 10 days with Lord Chaitanya. Then Lord Chaitanya, on his mother's instruction, Sachidevi's instruction, decided to go to Jagannath Puri instead of Vrindavan to worship Lord Jagannath. When Raghunath Das went home, he no longer had any interest in any of the things of the world. He simply wanted to go to Jagannath Puri to meet with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That was his constant meditation. He was quite young, and the family wanted him to take over their business. So it became a daily affair that Raghunath Das would run away from home, and his parents would find him in a distant place through many guards and servants. They would forcibly bring him back home, and as soon as the opportunity came again, he would somehow escape, but again he would be caught. Raghunath Das Goswami, he would not even enter into the interior compound of his house. He would sleep and stay in the courtyard called the Durga Mandap. So even though he was married, he never entered family life or entered the home, in fact. One day, Lord Chaitanya, on his next trip to Vrindavan, came to Shantipur again. Raghunath Das was given permission by his father to see him, but he was surrounded by many guards. There, Raghunath Das offered. Now remember, these were Vaishnavas, right? These were Vaishnavas, but yet they were so scared of losing Raghunath. There, Raghunath Das offered his life at the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu his very deep desire to be relieved of the entanglement and bondage of his household entanglements and serve him 100%. Lord Chaitanya instructed Raghunath in a very wonderful way. This is really powerful instructions. You should not be a Markat Vairagi. You should not be a monkey renunciate. Monkeys appear to be much renounced. They live in trees. They do not wear clothes. They eat only what grows in the trees. However, they always have so many thoughts about how to enjoy female monkeys whenever the opportunity comes. You should pretend in an external way to be completely attached to material life, wealth. You should perform your duties as a first-class business manager. But in your heart, you should always be meditating on Krishna, and very soon, Krishna will show his mercy to you. So these are very deep instructions, very important instructions given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Raghunath Das went home. He appeared to his parents to be completely settled in his materialistic life. Once his father and uncle got into trouble. They were collecting taxes from people, and they were collecting 2 million gold coins per month. They were supposed to give 1.5 million to the government, and they would keep 500,000 themselves. A Turkish chokidar was an assistant tax collector. He checked the records. He found that there were only 1.2 million gold coins. That means there was 3 lakh gold coins balance, which was not accounted for. He was very much envious of them. So this tax collector, along with some soldiers, came to arrest Hiranya and Govardhan Majumdar. But by their good intelligence, they were not home. Only Raghunath Das was home. They arrested Raghunath Das, put him in prison. The Turkish Chaudhary, every day he would try to harass Raghunath Das. He wanted to get information. Where is your father and uncle? Tell me where they are. Every time he would go to beat Raghunath, just by seeing his beauty and gentleness and his compassionate nature, his heart was melting, and the tax collector would not beat Raghunath Das. One day, Raghunath Das told the Chaudhary, actually, my uncle and father and you are like brothers. You have such intimate relationship. Sometimes brothers will naturally argue and fight. And then tomorrow the brothers will sit together very peacefully with great love for each other. Because you are in that relationship, you are like my father. That is how I respect you and have affection for you. You should not hurt your own son. You should be kind and compassionate to your own son. After all, you're a Muslim and you're a great saint. You know the scriptures. You are compassionate, merciful being. He spoke with such sincerity and love that the Turkish Chaudhary started to cry and tears began to glide through his beard. He embraced Raghunath Das. He said, yes, yes, what you're saying is true. You are my own son. How much love he developed for Raghunath Das. How can I hurt you? You should go. You should be free. As far as your father and uncle, when you happen to see them, you can give them this message that whatever extra profit they are making, they should divide with me. Ultimately, they can do whatever they want, but give them this message and arrange for me to meet them personally. Raghunath Das then arranged for a meeting. Govardhan and Hiranya and the Turkish Chaudhary, they met together and settled everything. In this way, Raghunath appeared to be completely attached to his worldly position. Once his father allowed Raghunath Das to visit Nityananda Prabhu at Panihati. Paying his obeisances from a distance, the Lord summoned him and ordered him to prepare and serve chip rice and yogurt to all present. So this is a very famous Chida Panihati festival. And there you can see Nityananda was very kind to Raghunath Das. He put his foot on his head. Raghunath Das happily followed the order, observed a festival by distributing chip rice mixed with yogurt. He brought chip rice, yogurt, milk, sweets, sugar, bananas, and other eatables and placed them all around. As soon as they heard that a festival was going to be held, all kinds of Brahmins and other gentlemen began to arrive. Thus, there were innumerable people. Seeing the crowd increase, Raghunath arranged to get more eatables from other villages. Yeah. The learned scholars, Brahmins, priests, were all honored by Lord Nityananda Prabhu, who made them sit on a raised platform with him. When the chip rice had been served to everyone, Nityananda Prabhu in meditation brought Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, Lord Nityananda stood up. Then they saw how the others were enjoying the chip rice with yogurt and condensed milk. For each and every pot, Lord Nityananda took one morsel of chip rice and pushed it into the mouth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a joke. All the Vaishnavas standing there were seeing the fun. This is the one wonderful festival. It was the first festival like this. Amazing festival. Panihati, Chiddahi festival. Very famous. It's now a yearly celebration of the pastimes of Raghunath Das Goswami and Lord Nityananda Prabhu. It takes place on the banks of the Ganga at Panihati, which is just north of Calcutta. Lord Chaitanya's associates enjoy many pastimes there. Chiddadi Mahotsav remembers how the Lord mercifully reciprocated with his devotees by arranging through Nityananda Prabhu and Raghunath Das to provide an ecstatic feast of yogurt and chip rice, along with various other nectar foods. This wonderful pastime is described in detail in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Antalilas, chapter 6. Chip rice festival took place just before the monsoons, when it's very hot, 40 to 50 degrees centigrade, and muggy, 80 to 90% humidity. So naturally, the most cooling of foodstuffs was offered. Cool yogurt, dahi, chip rice, chida, were offered with sugar, bananas, milk sweets, and cakes. The day after the festival, Nityananda Prabhu gave Raghunath the blessing that he would very soon attain the shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After this, Raghunath went back home and was fervently praying to again be reunited with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, after returning from the festival, his mother and father were worried. As previously many times, Raghunath Das had tried to escape. So his mother said to his father, this Raghunath has gone crazy. He won't stay home. You should tie him with ropes. Govardhan, the father, said, he's already bound by wealth of Indra, so much opulence, so much fine clothes, such beautiful living conditions. His wife is more beautiful than an angel. If these things can't keep him home, how can we expect to keep him with ropes? Our son has received the mercy of Gauranga, Gaurachandra, And who can keep such a madman from the service of the Lord? Raghunath Das Goswami was pretending very nicely, but still there were guards all around him day and night. He was immersed in meditation, how to escape, how to achieve the lotus feet of Gauranga. Actually, he's showing the way how to get out of this material world. If we are thinking, living in this material world, thinking this is a nice place, we've got a big problem because we're going to stay here forever. But if we're thinking, yes, I'm living here, but actually I need to be out of here, into the spiritual world, then we are following in the footsteps of Raghunath Das Goswami. One night, the guru of the family, Yadunandan Acharya, had a problem. One of the disciples, who was a Brahmin priest who worshipped his deities, had left his seva. Yadunandan knew that Raghunath Das was very expert in all dealings on all levels. So he came to Durgat Mandap and he approached Raghunath Das and said, "Can you go to the house of this pujari and convince him to continue his service to the deity? I will go with you." Raghunath Das said, "Yes, of course I will." Because it was so late at night, all the guards were fast asleep. Raghunath Das left. As he was walking down the road with the Yadunandan Acharya, he said, "Actually, I can do it myself. You can go home. I will go to the home of your disciple Pujari and convince him." Yadunandan Acharya said, "Yes," and he went home. Raghunath Das understood that this was his time. This was the time. He preached to the Pujari first. He did his duty first. Then he immediately fled into the forest. He understood that his parents would immediately send so many guards and investigators to find him. So he did not go in the direction of Puri. First, he went east. He just traveled due east all day long, the next whole day. And when the night came, there was the shed of the milkman. He slept in that place where cows sleep. In the morning, the milkman understood that he had not eaten, so he gave him a little milk. Raghunath Das went in the southern direction, but not on the main road. Rather, he went on the road through the jungles, which no one would take. Meanwhile, Shivananda Sen was a devotee who every year he would take a whole group of Bengali Vaishnavas to Jagannath Puri to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Govardhan sent some messenger and guards, "Go to Shivananda Sen because Raghunath must be going to Puri with them. We know he must be going. Tell him, give me my son back." So the messenger went to Shivananda Sen, who replied, "Your son is not here. I do not know where he is." And that was the truth because Raghunath Das went a different way. Meanwhile, Raghunath Das was traveling through the jungles and the forests. It took him 12 days to arrive in Puri. In those 12 days, only 3 times did he get anything to eat. Sometimes he got a little milk, sometimes he cooked something, sometimes he chewed on some fried grains. Although often it was cold, often it was hot. So many inconveniences. He was completely immersed, however, in the thought that soon he would serve the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was full of joy. After 12 days, he arrived in Puri. In Kashi Mishra Bhavan, there was a room called Gambira. That was a personal residence of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Raghunath Das went to that place. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Raghunath Das, he was filled with happiness. He said to Raghunath, "You have received the mercy of Lord Krishna to become disentangled from the attachments of this material world. Very difficult. In fact, it's impossible. It is only by the mercy of Lord Krishna one can achieve such a liberation." So this is an important point because we might think, hey, yeah, you know what, I'm renounced. But how renounced are we? There'll be lessons as throughout our life, how renounced we are. Actually, only by the mercy of Krishna can we become renounced. Raghunath Das, in great humility, with such a grateful heart, he replied, "I do not know who Krishna is. I only know what your causeless mercy, that your causeless mercy has saved me." Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "Material life is like a deep ditch where people go to pass stool. Because your father and uncle are friends of my grandfather and father, therefore we are related. I can say some joking words about them. Your father and uncle are like worms living in the stool of that ditch. Although they are Vaishnavas, They're not pure Vaishnavas. They have many material attachments. They give so much charity and donation to other devotees, but still they have so much material attachment. But Krishna has rescued you and brought you here. So this is another very important instruction. If we have these material attachments, we're going to remain here. Even we may be so-called Vaishnavas, give good charity, give good donations. Doesn't matter. Attachment will keep us in this world. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu turned to Swarup Damodar Goswami, his personal associate, and said, I want you to take care of Raghunath Das. I am personally placing him in your loving care. Then Lord Chaitanya took the hand of Raghunath Das and the hand of Swarup Damodar Goswami and put them together. Now he said, there are three Raghus, Vaidya Raghunath, there is Bhatta Raghunath, and this is Raghunath, who will be known as Raghunath of Swarup Damodar Goswami. So that's pretty interesting. Swarup Damodar Goswami very happily accepted the charge of Raghunath Das as his personal service, to the Lord. One day, Raghunath Das spoke through Swarup Damodar Goswami to Lord Chaitanya. He was so humble that generally he would not speak directly to Lord Chaitanya. If he had anything to say or any question to ask, he would make it through either Swarup Damodar Goswami or Govinda. Govinda was the servant of the Lord. Raghunath Das has a question. He says he has given up all material, wonderful luxuries of his family life and worldly existence, but he does not know why. He does not know what his duties are. What are the services of one in the renounced order of life? Lord Chaitanya turned to Raghunath Das Goswami and replied. So he's now instructing him. Do not speak mundane topics like people in general of this world. Do not hear what they say. Do not eat luxurious food. Do not dress very nicely. You should always offer all respects to others. Be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than the tree. In this way, you should constantly chant the holy name of Krishna. And in your mind, you should always meditate on serving Radha and Krishna in the forest of Vrindavan. These are the duties of one in the renounced order of life. So these are really fundamental instructions. We're very used to listening to mundane topics and eating luxurious food, dressing nicely, not respecting others. It's tough. It's going to be tough, but this is the way of spiritual life. Gauranga had requested Govinda to give daily Raghunath the remnants of the Lord's plate to eat. Raghunath would be overjoyed when receiving this prasad. Things went on for 5 days, Raghunath taking Lord's remnant each day. But on the 6th day, he stopped taking the Lord's Mahaprasad. From that day onwards, he went to Jagannath temple and took darshan of the Lord's flower offering, after which he would stand at the lion gate and beg Mahaprasad from Jagannath's servants. He decided that this was like a prostitute. So finally, the prasad which the vendors outside the temple threw away near the Simha Dwara, after it started to go bad, that even the cows would not eat it. He would wash that prasad, take out the dirt, which it had become mixed with, until it reached the hard core of the grains, which had not been cooked. He added salt, and he would eat that. One day, Swarup saw Raghunath doing this and came and asked him for some of his prasad, comparing it to the nectar of the gods. Even Mahaprabhu came and took a handful of Raghunath's prasad, though Swarup Damodar prevented him from taking a second. So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begging Raghunath Das. And this is prasad which had been thrown away. Even the cows wouldn't eat it. But Raghunath was eating it. So this shows the renounced position of Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath's parents were distressed to hear of his lifestyle. They sent a Brahman, 2 servants, 400 rupees to Shivananda for Raghunath. But Raghunath would not accept them. Thinking of his father's benefit, however, he took some of the money and used it to pay for Mahaprabhu's meals twice a day. After doing this for 2 years, Raghunath abandoned this practice also. In response to Mahaprabhu's question about why Raghunath had stopped inviting him, Swarup Damodar said Raghunath had decided that since his father was a materialistic man, Mahaprabhu was not really pleased to eat the food purchased with his money. By accepting such money, his own mind was becoming contaminated, and his only gain was some fame and status. Furthermore, he thought that Mahaprabhu was only accepting his invitations out of kindness, because Raghunath was so foolish that he would become unhappy if Mahaprabhu refused. But in fact, he was secretly not pleased by it. Mahaprabhu was greatly satisfied to hear this conclusion and said, when one eats foods offered by a materialistic person, one's mind becomes contaminated and thus cannot remember Krishna. I accepted Raghunath's invitation for many days because of his enthusiasm. I am glad that he has realized all this and given up this practice on its own initiative. This is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Raghunath Das Goswami remained in Jagannath Puri, intimately serving Gauranga for 16 years. That's more than any of the Goswamis. Being pleased, Lord Gauranga gave him his personal and very dear Govardhan Shila and Kunjamala to Raghunath. Raghunath Das couldn't live after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left his world. So he came to Vrindavan to end his life by jumping off Govardhan Hill. But Rupa and Sanatana Goswami affectionately received him and convinced him to live on and enlighten all the Brijbasis, Vaishnavas, with Mahaprabhu's Puri pastimes. For 3 hours a day on the banks of Radhakund, he would speak about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So on this bank of Radhakund is his samadhi, where they do 24 hours kirtan, Raghunath Das Goswamis. He took the bare minimum to keep body and soul alive together. After the disappearance of Chaitanya, Raghunath ate only fruit and milk. After Sanatana Goswami left, he existed on a leaf cup of buttermilk every day or two. When Rupa Goswami also left, went back to the spiritual world, gave up all eating and drinking, he was slowly burning in the fire of separation from the Lord and his loving servants. Brijbasis would cry upon seeing his weakened condition. His daily bhajan, this is something amazing, 64 rounds, 100,000 holy names, Lakeshwar, doing Manasi Seva in his spiritual body, worshipping Govardhan Shila, bathing thrice in Radhakund, offering 1,000 obeisances to Krishna, 2,000 obeisances to Vaishnavas, and embracing them, resting 90 minutes. Some days he'd forget to do even that. He would eat one or drink one leaf cup, 100 grams of buttermilk daily. Keep in mind, however, when an external associate of the Lord, eternal associate of the Lord, externally rests, he internally continues serving. He lived in Radhakund, which was where he engaged in his most intense devotional practices. He was blessed there by Nityananda's Prabhu's consort, Janava Devi, when she visited Radhakund. When Mahaprabhu himself visited the village of Arid and displayed his pastime of bathing in a rice field, in which he indicated the presence of Radhakund and Shyamkund. At that time, the two tanks had not been excavated. So Raghunath himself thought it would be a good idea to have this work done. But he had some reservations about getting involved in this kind of work. However, one day, a rich merchant who was on pilgrimage to Badri Narayan with the intention of donating a large sum of money to the temple there. But Lord Badrinarayan appeared to him in a dream and told him to fund Raghunath's vision of a developing Radhakund and Shyamkund. The merchant came to Braj, found Raghunath in the village of Arid, and recounted the story of the dream to him. Raghunath thus supervised the excavation of the ponds, subsequent building of stone steps, walkways. So that's what we see now. It's because of Raghunath Das Goswami. They excavated Radhakund and Shyamkund, renovated beautifully. 5 trees stood on the banks of Shyamkund, which is said to be the 5 Pandavas. Raghunath had the intention of cutting down these trees so that Shyamkund could be made perfectly rectangular. Before this could happen, however, Raghunath had the dream in which Yudhishthira appeared to him and told him the 5 Pandavas were present in Radhakund in the form of these trees. Raghunath immediately stopped the workers from cutting them down. This is why Shyamkund was not built as a perfect rectangular. So see, Shyamkund is very odd shape, whereas Radhakund is nicely rectangular. Other legends about Raghunath Das Goswami. It is said that when he read Rupa Goswami's play, Lalita Madhav, he was submerged in an ocean of, separation. Though he was permanently in Radha's association, Radhakund, he was unable to tolerate even a moment's threat of separation, or to speak of intense feelings of Krishna's absence. When he read Lalita Madhav, which has separation from Krishna as his primary subject matter, this mood became so strong that it became doubtful he would be able to survive. When Rupa saw Raghunath's response to his play, he wrote another short work named Dhanakali Kaumudi, which is full of humor and amusing banter. He gave this book to Raghunath and took away his copy of Lalita Madhav. When Raghunath read Dhanakali Kaumuda, he forgot his feeling of separation. Because this is all about the tax collecting pastimes of Lord Krishna, which is really hilarious. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami had special affection for certain Vaishnava. Brajbasi. Raghunath's daily nourishment consisted of only a leaf bowl of whey. This Brajbasi was distressed to learn that Raghunath ate so little, thinking that it was impossible for him to keep alive in such a small amount. So one day he went to the village known as Sakistali, and he was overjoyed to see a silk cotton tree with huge leaves. He had a bigger sized bowl made with these leaves, in which he put whey for buttermilk for Raghunath. And Raghunath was astounded to see such a large leaf bowl, and he asked him where he got it. When he heard the name of Sakistali, he immediately threw down the bowl in the way. Sakistali is the home of Chandravali, Radharani's primary rival for Krishna's love. Chandravali's Sakhis such as Shaivya and Padma are constantly looking for ways to take Krishna away from Radha's bowl and bring him to their girlfriend. Just as Radharani is distressed by these actions, so are his girlfriends. Raghunath was a member of Radharani's entourage, and so it was his role to constantly think of how to bring happiness to her and her girlfriends. As soon as he heard the name of Sakhi Sali mentioned, he was transported by anger, transformed into anger. This mood is the ultimate stage of love, which envious people who are burdened by material lust could never understand. In the Bhakti Ratnakar, it is written, after calming down, Raghunath Das said to the Brajbasi, "This is Chandravali's place. You should never go there." The Brajbasi calmed down and recognized that these were symptoms of spiritual perfection, in which was apparent a spiritual aspirant. All these devotees are eternally perfected souls. Anyone who doubts it must be considered fallen. Very powerful. The Lord's interaction with his pure devotees in the most caring way, interacts with his devotees in a most caring way. When Raghunath Das Goswami was performing his bhajan while residing at the banks of Radhakund, he was totally immersed in internally serving the divine couple with his Manjari Swarup and externally performing strict sadhana bhajan, chanting 64 rounds every day. But despite the suggestion of Sanatana Goswami to build a small hut, he was not in the least conscious or concerned about his own protection, but he kept on chanting. Seeing this devotion, Krishna himself was starting to take care of Raghunath Das. Once a tiger came to the banks of Radhakund to drink water. Sanatan Goswami saw Krishna standing there with a stick protecting Raghunath Das from the tiger. Another time he saw Radharani himself standing under the sun, giving shade to Raghunath Das Goswami with her veil. Witnessing this, he told Raghunath Das Goswami to build a hut, as Krishna and Radha were themselves serving him, which was not appropriate, as the devotees want to serve the Lord and not take service from them. So when Raghunath Das heard this, he agreed to let the nearby residents build a hut for him. And he continued performing his bhajan while staying in the hut. In this way, Radha and Krishna lovingly take care of his devotee. This is really something very, very special. Very special. Okay, there is one other extraordinary legend about Raghunath Das Goswami, recounted in the Bhakti Ratnaka. One day he was suffering from indigestion. Vithalanath came with 2 doctors from Vallabhpur to cure Raghunath Das. After examining him, the doctor said that indigestion has been caused by eating rice and milk. Vithalanath was astonished to hear this diagnosis. This is impossible. This man never eats anything but whey. Raghunath then spoke up and said, he had indeed eaten milk and rice in the course of his meditation on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So you can see the pure devotees, they can meditate, and it's as if it's real. He wrote 3 books. Tavavali contains the Manasa Shiksha, Vilapa, Kusum Anjali, and more. Mukta Charit and Danakeli Chintamani. So it looks like he wrote this as well. In Deva Dharma, Srila Thakur Bhaktivinoda said, Raghunath Das Goswami showed this esoteric method of engaging oneself in loving service, Shri Radha and Krishna. He wrote and taught that the divine service of Radharani in Vrindavan is the topmost spiritual perfection. For this is known as the Prayojana Acharya. The teacher reveals the highest fulfillment in life. He clearly established the supremacy of Srimati Radharani. In Vilap Kusum Manjali, a collection of intimate prayers, he states that Radha's service is the highest attainment. Feeling extreme impatience and hopelessness due to separation from the queen of his life, he desperately prays for Radharani's service. So his prayer is, my life is worthless. I will give it up without receiving your mercy. Living in Radhakund and Vrindavan is meaningless to me. To say nothing of Vrindavan, even Krishna himself is useless to me without you, O Srimati Radharani. You are the object of my life. Please be merciful to me, crying profusely in great lamentation. I hold your lotus feet to my heart, beg for your loving service. May this Vilap Kusum Anjali bring even the slightest satisfaction to you. So he serves as Rati Manjari in Vrindavan, in Golok Vrindavan. Samadhi is at Radhakund in the 64 Samadhi area. So this is Raghunath Das Goswami's Samadhi, and they do Kirtan here 24 hours. And Rati Manjari is here, very close to Rupa Manjari, who is the head of all the Manjaris. Right next to Rupa is Rati, very close to Shri Krishna. So I wanted to stop there. We'll carry on with the other 2 wonderful personalities tomorrow. Any questions or any comments, please? Okay, we can stop there. Raghunath Das Goswami ki jai.